He has a 1-1 count. That one's struck high. Left side. That one's going. That's out of here off the wall. You have to be kidding me. Fireworks. And here you go. Hello, welcome one and welcome all inside the studio. It's High and Tight bracket reveal edition here as we get ready and we get rolling. Of course, myself, Andrew Brown, Cade Nissen with me as we get ready. This has been the release. Finally, we've gotten here. The release of 3A, 4A brackets have been there. We've seemingly been waiting forever. They're finally here, and gosh, it is about time, I think, here as we again we'll get to talking all about this and more here, Cade, as we dive into it. But certainly a lot of at first glances, this is kind of for me most of what we're expecting. Right, we're expecting a lot of good things. And we were expecting a lot of good matchups, and I think we're going to get that here as we get roll on and get ready for what the postseason's coming on up for.
Absolutely. Don't mind me. I'm on my phone posting the brackets. I have not actually. I just post them on the socials. They're live. All the substates are live on our socials, and they're live on Bound. So you can go into Bound, go to brackets. You can click through, and you can see who plays who plays where. I really haven't gotten a chance to break it down and look, Andrew. So this is going to be fun. Kind of first kind of initial thoughts, really, for both of us. I don't think you really have had a chance. Sit down either.
No, and it's something where too, there's talks about it being Thursday, and now it truly is the reaction. It's right now reaction because we thought it was going to be Thursday. Several of our sources had said, they're going to come Thursday, and I think that was just so that they would get the truest instant reaction out of us that they possibly could, because that's what we're getting here as we will get ready and rolling. And of course, I can definitely we'll go ahead and I'll share screens, get the look of what we see on Bound, and again, it is going to be. I think what we're going to get here is a lot of truly good matchups here. I know that one thing I am for sure about is that I believe, I shouldn't say no, I believe we're going to get some first round matchups that we're going to be very, very happy with, and maybe some first round that we don't usually get, right? Because I think here, by the way, I want to move this because I'm going to try and sport my Iowa Hawkeyes here when I do this. But yeah, I think we're going to get some matchups here by the rumorings that I've heard that we might see in like a sub-state final or a state tournament. So we'll go along. We'll get those here. We'll dive into those here for sure. But man, this is going to be a fun one. I mean, I'm jacked for the postseason already, and it hasn't even started. We got what most teams have close to 9 games left or so, give or take. But by the time the regular season wraps up for 3A, 4A, so yeah, you never know. It's going to be fun. Around the corner, and then of course, but before we know it, we'll be at state. And then before you know that, we'll be wrapping up the season with the Senior All-Star Series in Pella. And so we'll be there broadcasting that as well. And we'll be there just like we did last year, doing all the great stuff, video highlights and more. So as always, Rockfin, place to check that out, right? It's a place to go and get exclusive content and content first, right? So you want it all first, that's where you go, and you help support a small business like us and helping to highlight the coaches, players, and of course even umpires. So make sure to go ahead and just give a subscribe, give a like, give a follow, all that kind of jazz. So also wanted to give another before we officially head in. Praying for everybody impacted by the flooding. That may potentially impact what we do throughout the week, and that's just from us here in Central Iowa. So we know everybody in Northwest Iowa. Hopefully everything's going all right for you guys. Again, as we mentioned earlier, Hey, in our on our Twitter feed, especially as well as our socials, pinned there is a chance for you to go help the Dirks family. Coach Dirks, the Spencer head coach, him and his family having a tough time. So make sure to go ahead and reach out to them. Reach out to our social media pages and hit the GoFundMe page and donate. Like we said, donate not only money but supplies if you can. Right, so they need supplies right now. So please go ahead and do that. All right, so looks like we are getting a handful of people already in. We're already ready for this here, Kate. Are you ready to rock and roll here?
Yeah, what do you want to start? 3A, 4A? What are we thinking here?
Man, I think maybe start 3A if that's all right.
Like
And
it.
so let me make sure I got my bracket, my stuff all set up here. And again, this is from Bounds. So if you get later, you want to check it out, check out Bounds. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Oh, let's see, using that. Yeah. All right, install later. I love it when this works here. All right, so here we are. If everyone can see this here, we are looking at substate number 1. And Cade, as I look at this, first off, next time I'll kind of pause and take a look at what brackets we really like here. But looking at this bracket, it's intriguing to me. There's no doubt in my mind that Bishop Heelan deserved that number 1 spot, and of course, also some big seeds: SBL, MLC, Floyd Valley, Lamar's. But this is an interesting one for me here, Cade, because I look down and I see Boyden Hull Rock Valley. That's who Bishop Heelan, I believe, took on early in the postseason last year. But then you also had the 2022, 2021 sub-state final battle between MOC Floyd Valley and Storm Lake. And that's intriguing to me because that's an even matchup for me because DeVergston will probably get the go on the mound against MOC Floyd Valley. And as we know from what he's been able to do, he's the class leader in strikeouts at 85. So that is intriguing to me there. But ultimately, as I bring us back here, I do want to say, man, this is one where I think Bishop Heelan may have the edge, but that bottom half of the bracket is very interesting to me.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, overall, this bracket in general, I mean, 7 of the 8 teams are above 500 or even within 2 games of 500. I mean, Lamar's 2 games below 500. They're no slouch right there. This is especially that bottom of the bracket, like you said. I mean, that's a loaded bracket. MOC is not a team to mess with, and they're gonna have to deal with Mr. DeVergston and Storm Lake, and you got Spencer on the bottom side. That's gonna be a story that's gonna be so fun to follow.
Yes.
That's a team that's got postseason experience, and then on the top side, I think you're right. I think Heelan deserved a 1 seed. I mean, obviously they're going to get a 1 seed. I think they deserved a good draw. I was a little curious if they were going to draw Harlan or LC, which they didn't, and I think that was well deserved. I think Heelan deserved not to have to see those guys, and I know those two might have to fit eventually. But I mean, that's what goes into it. Is the geography is a huge part of this. It's always a factor. But I mean, Heelan, we know they got that dangerous 1-2 punch at the top of their pitching staff, and postseason time, it's time for your 1-2s to show up, and Heelan's going to have that up there with the best of anybody. I know they're right up there in terms of team ERA in Class 3. They're second right now behind Bonner for our 1.89 team ERA for Bishop Heelan. So they're going to be tough to score on. It's going to take a few to scrape across, and then you're going to need to hold that offense down. So it's going to be tough. But I like Heelan's draw here. I think they got a well-deserved bracket here. I like this for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Going to be fun, interesting. Hey, drop your comments below. What do you think here? That's going to be very interesting. And then, of course, as we go along, hopefully no glitch here as I move us to Sub-State Bracket 2. And so I love it. We got some updates coming here. But Sub-State Bracket 2, first and foremost to me, gosh, this is interesting here because a little tidbit. We look at it, and some of the teams that started the year very high for us, ADM Ballard, they're going head to head here. But here's the thing that I've seen over the last 5 years for ADM here, Cade. When they have played a conference opponent early in the postseason, they have bowed out early. When they have taken on a conference opponent late in the postseason, they have made it to state. So it's very interesting. And what you could end up seeing here is a battle potentially between either North Polk and ADM or North Polk and Ballard. And ADM was the team that last time either of these three teams faced off in the postseason, ADM had won that battle against North Polk. So that's going to be an interesting storyline for me to follow as well. Of course, I will say you cannot sleep on Algona because Algona, one of the two teams in 3A to have two pitchers in the top five in terms of strikeouts. So, they've got a huge 1-2 punch there. But, man, I mean, Boone at the bottom, they're, I think, the scariest 10-loss team that could ever be at this point, the way their offense can flow.
Yeah, I mean, you look at North Polk, and right now they sit at number one in our poll, and rightfully so. I think they've earned that. But
Yeah.
this does not look like this is a tough draw for a number
Yeah.
one overall seed. I don't know. You don't know how the IHSAA like perceives North Polk. Obviously, we just kind of go off what we have. But no, Algona, that's a scary. That's a scary team right there, 23-4, and like you said, Slagle 82 Ks, and they got Garmin, the sophomore, right there with 66 of them. That's a 1-2 that's gonna push them, and if they can, throw Slagle game one and get by Boone or Humboldt in game two, we could see like a Tate Slagle Reese Rogge or a Tate Slagle Hunter sub-state final. I mean that one would get some eyes on it for sure. But even North Polk. Getting past Ballard ADM. I mean, those are conference foes. Ballard just took down North Polk a week or so ago. And we know about ADM and how well they play in the postseason, no matter what their record is. So this is a fun sub-state, and I'm not going to see this one going chalk, and I'm not going to be surprised if there's some chaos going on here.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. I think it's going to be very interesting when all is said and done. And I do, again, Substate 2 is one of the more intriguing, I think, here. But now moving on to, unless there's anything else here, Kay, I think I'm moving on to Substate number 3.
We're good.
And as we look at it here, again, man, what do we see here? An interesting look in that we have Western Dubuque, obviously the number one seed. I think that's easy for a lot of people to tell. Decorah, Center Point, Urbana, Waverly, Shell Rock also in that mix here. I will say my first initial thoughts here is that if there was any bracket in which I might lean a little bit more towards the number one seed running through, this could be it. But I will say Center Point Urbana has been a team that has had quite the schedule this year. They've had to run through quite the gauntlet. They've faced Marion. They faced Western Dubuque. I believe they faced Xavier. They faced an Assumption as well. Now, have they come out on top of most of those? No, but when I saw them against Marion, they were one hit away from winning both of those games. And in the end here, they're set up to where, they could make it to the sub-state final. They could be the Mount Vernon of last year, although with a better record. You still can't ignore the fact that they go through the WAMAC and they still have 21 wins. I will give a much-deserved shout-out to Waverly Shell Rock. They took down 8th-ranked Central DeWitt late in the season. That means something because now we're getting into bracket reveals here, and Waverly Shell Rock has put a big win into the column here for them. And one of the things that they had been dogged on a little bit was the schedule in which they had played, but they just showed, in my estimation, that they are above the schedule. They're willing to scrap with anybody. This could be one where, again, I lean one way, but Cade, I don't think it's far from 100. I don't think it's anywhere close to 100% still.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think a casual baseball fan or Iowa high school baseball fan, you could say, would see Western Dubuque at 19-9 and kind of shrug their shoulders just because it's not the sexiest record out there. But I mean, this team has only played 10 games against Class 3A competition. Everything else, they're playing up, and they're playing up a lot. So I mean, that's I like what you said in Western Dubuque. I mean, this is their bracket. There's no doubt. But even CPU, I mean, they just played them. Let's see, it was recently that they played them, and they won on the 19th, and it was a 3-2 game. It was Tanner Anderson going 7 complete for the Bobcats in that one. So if it's a rematch of that, you can expect another tight, low scoring one. I mean, you saw Center Point Urbana against Marion. That's a team that competes hard. It's a team. I mean, you win 21 games in a season. That's no slouch. And even Waverly down there at 19 wins. That would be a fun sub-state semifinal, I think you'd call it, between
Yep.
Waverly and Urbana. So, I mean, this is a fun sub-state. I think it's. I mean, knowing Western Dubuque and their kind of what they bring to the table, you think it's theirs, but there's some threats here. There's no doubt, and we're going to see that in every sub-state, that there's threats all across the board, and no one's got. An easy path to state, you can say, because it's never easy to get there.
Oh no, it's going to be. I think, man, this could be arguably one of the more upset. I mean, if it does go upset, I think we would still have a little bit of surprise here. But certainly, there are teams that are geared and ready and set to go here for the postseason. But now, as we march right along here, let's move on. And as I bring us back to our bracket look here, it'll be the sub-state bracket 4 that we get ready and rolling to go. And so as we continue to do so, again, give us your thoughts and more. And I switch over my mic here. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a switch here for you. But anyway, sub-state 4. Man, first I look at this and go, okay, all right, this is very interesting. You got Williamsburg at the bottom, fresh into the 3A scene here, and against I think one of the hotter teams right now in the latter half of the season in CCA. But man, you got 3 ranked teams in this bracket alone, and of course, not only that, but you have arguably at least a handful of the top 20 to 25 batters in this in terms of total bases, hits, RBIs. Wahlert has been dangerous. Okay, they have been the team that has been absolutely massively dangerous, and other coaches have said that and come out point blank to say that. Although I will say, don't sleep on. I know Maquoketa right now is looking at 4 wins. 4-14, not glorious by any stretch. But this was the team that took down Solon 2 years ago when Solon was a high seed in the playoffs, and that they took them down in the first game. So would we happen to see it upset like that here? I don't know. Certainly Solon is glad that they're on the other side of the bracket with this. But, I see Solon, one of the quickest teams on the base pass, one of the hottest hitting teams, and Wahlert, also one of the hottest hitting teams. And you got 2 teams that have really shaped up their pitching here ever since they've had some big pitchers leave. So those 2, but then again, Mount Vernon's kind of my Cinderella right now, right? They're the team I think has proven themselves already. Mount Vernon has been one of just 3A teams to take down Western Dubuque this season. So that has to account for something. We'll see where it goes. But man, I think of any bracket, this, I feel, is one of the more loaded brackets.
Yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, Wahlert deserving of the 1 seed. They've been great all year, but there's your giant killer, Andrew, and Mount Vernon. They just took down Western Dubuque last week. We know how dangerous they are. We know the run they went on last year. That team's going to cause some headaches for whoever's in their way, and it's West Delaware first that they got to take care of business of. But on that bottom half, I mean, Solon and CCA, if we get that type of matchup, if both those guys can get through, I mean, those teams actually play tomorrow on Thursday. So you're going to wonder what that doubleheader is going to turn into in terms of who's going to see who. You're not going to want to show anything. You're not going to want to. I mean, it's interesting with the end of the year how teams kind of know who they got to play, and sometimes you run into playing them before you have to play them. So Clear Creek Amanda, they did just sweep Williamsburg in their doubleheader on the 24th, both those games by 10 plus runs, but it's tough to beat a good team 3 times, and Williamsburg is a good team. I know the record isn't anything crazy, but that's a good competitive team that knows how to play, obviously just in the state tournament in Carroll last year. But no doubt playing conference foes in the postseason is never fun, because you know a lot about each other at that point. And at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to who can make adjustments and who can score the most runs. So that's a fun bottom half the bracket, and even the top half, Mount Vernon, Waller, in a sub-state semifinal could be fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. Again, what's your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Let us know. Hit us up. Comment here as much as you can. Get the comments rolling here. I'll make sure I have those set and ready. But right now, let's look and move on to another bracket here, Sub-State 5. And I think this one intrigues me. Central DeWitt, Assumption here. Two teams that split their series in which they happened earlier on in the season. Of course, Fairfield has made a really big push as well. But I think Mount Pleasant is one of those teams. I think Mount Pleasant could play spoiler very easy here. I love what they've got going. It's certainly going to be interesting here, Kate. I don't know. I love Assumption. I love Rose. I love what they're doing there. This is a team that has kind of battled through one of the tougher schedules in Class 3A, and I think they are. I don't want to say they're the toughest team, but I think they're the most battle-tested in terms of who they played. Central DeWitt obviously being close to that. But, yeah, this one for me might have the biggest question mark because I'm not sure exactly who could end up taking this one.
No, yeah, I like that, Andrew. This is definitely the one, as we're going down the list, is this is the most questionable one in terms of who I'm most confident in. And it's not because I don't like any of these teams. I like a lot of these teams, and that's the problem is it's so evenly matched. I mean, DeWitt and Assumption, they've been sitting in our rankings, and most of the year they've been around that 8-9 mark, kind of right on the edge. So this is it's going to be a fun sub-state to watch, and you got some sleepers, like you said, in Mount Pleasant and Fairfield, who have both been in our honorable mentions list for Class 3A. I mean, Fairfield, they're fourth in batting average in 3A. They're hitting 335 as a team. And we haven't talked about them a ton all year, but they're going to get their chance here in this bracket to make some noise. And obviously with Central DeWitt, knowing how they can put up offensive numbers, that they're fifth in Class 3A in batting average right now. So, yeah, no doubt, Andrew. I think this is the one with the most question marks, and I think that's what's going to make it intriguing. Is there's 4 teams here that I would not be surprised coming out of this one.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be intriguing going again. Central DeWitt's taking that number 1 seed, but certainly it is anything but easy for that. All right, so now we'll move right along here as we go ahead into. Let me grab the next sub-state up here, and as we do so, again, your thoughts, let us know. Hit us up here as we get rolling here, and of course, as I now bring it up here, I could hear a little audible whoo from Cade, and I think I know why here as we take a look at this. And it is truly, I think this is interesting here because you have Marion's obviously kind of the big dog here, but Marion, Xavier, man, that feels, the last couple of years we've seen them in the sub-state final, and now we won't get to see him at least past the second round. The records being as they are, they make that happen. I will say Sadell, they are one of the few teams in Class 3A who have 2 or more guys in the top 10 of total bases and extra base hits, and 2 guys in the top 10 or top 5, of strikeouts. So, and not the same guys, but ultimately they have offense, they have pitching, and that's the bottom of the bracket where I feel like, man, they could run away with this a little bit. I say that only because this is kind of the prove it year for Benton. I know that they're happy to be on the other side of Xavier at this point, but they came into last year as one of the higher seeds in the state, and they didn't get out of 5 innings against Xavier. And I know that wasn't what they know they're capable of, but I think for them, their fan base, they want to prove that Benton baseball is back and they're not going to roll over. And I don't think they will, but certainly if you get past Gilbert, then you're on a collision course with Sadell. That's going to be interesting. And as much as I said a couple sub-states ago that was the most loaded, I will say that this could easily tie that, if not take that over, simply because Nevada is not a rollover team as well. Xavier's going to have their hands full right out of the gate. So this is going to be an interesting one. I like Marion. I like Grayson Kirsch, who could be that X factor to help take them through there. I know they got Scott and others who have been phenomenal for them, but I think Kirsch is going to be a guy that can really help them progress and be that wild card for the Wolves. But I mean, ultimately, man, there's a lot of packed in this sub-state here, Cade.
There is a lot to unpack. I mean, Marion Xavier, they played a while ago, and that was an 11-10 shootout.
Yep.
That was on the 16th of May, so that was a long time ago. They're going to know a lot about each other, but they haven't played in a while, which is going to make that rematch fun if it comes to that point, obviously. And on the bottom half, I mean, Sadell, what's not to like? There's 3 20-plus win teams in this bracket, Andrew. That's pretty rare, and I don't think we've seen that through 6 substates in Class 3A. But if we can get that, if we get that Benton Sadell match, I mean, that's like a perfect matchup. Benton, known for hitting the ball, that they're ranked top 5 in Class 3A in batting average. That's what they're they're known for. That they got the offensive numbers to back everything up, and then Sadell. If you don't know much about Sadell, let me tell you, they got a 1-2 punch, and Mean and freshman Brady Hicks. I mean, both those guys are just must watch, and they've been putting up crazy numbers all year. Both top 5 in strikeouts. Mean is the only guy in Class 3A, and I believe in the entire state to have 10 wins on the mound. I mean, that pitching, that 1-2 is going to carry them. I saw the freshman Brady Hicks throw almost 7 complete against North Polk and give up almost nothing. So they can shut down good offenses. So that's going to be a perfect complementary matchup if we can get it. I mean, and who knows what the sub-state final is going to look like. There's 4 to 5 possible scenarios where I won't be surprised. I mean, Xavier at 15-15, you can shrug your shoulders at that, but I saw them sweep a really good 4A team in Prairie. So they got it in them, and this sub-state could flip upside down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you mentioned Marion Xavier. If we get them, the last four games between these two have been split evenly at 1-1, 2-2, I should say, apiece. Xavier having the overall series advantage over the last 10 years, 6-5. But that's going to be interesting. And then I mean, you got Sadell. They have top 2 guys in terms of offensive numbers, hits, and total bases. Not to mention what you got, like you mentioned, with Mean and, of course, Hicks on the mound. That's going to be, I think, again, I think I might have to eat my words a little bit on it. I think that's definitely one of the tougher sub-state brackets here, but certainly a lot to go into that. But all right, so now let's move right along here as we get into sub-state 7. I'll get my stuff all set up, and here we go. This is interesting here. At the beginning of the season here, Cade, I did not see Grinnell necessarily as a top seed. And we get that here. 20-9. They're the only 20-win team at the moment coming into the postseason in this bracket. We will have multiple, as I do believe it's going to be Pella that kind of gets there in the long run here. But, man, I think Grinnell has a good look to get there to the second round and potentially get even further than that. I don't necessarily see a horrible path for them. This is a team that found a way to get onto the base pass, strike early in the game against Marion. Again, and their win over Marion, their win over the Wolves, what they've been able to do since then has been consistent with that. I really like where they're headed. And then, of course, Pella, Isaiah Kettler he is number 2, I believe, in total bases without looking at my overall stats mark here. But he is also one of the guys that is near the top in stolen bases and extra base hits and walks. I mean, he is the true blue, or in this case, true green player. He is the X factor that will come play big here. But I will have you note that Winterset has been a giant slayer for 2 years in a row. They have taken down ADM twice in the past couple of years. Last year, most notably, as in the very first round, they took ADM out. So Winterset, they have now more wins than they did last year at 9-12. They're a little bit of a dark horse, but I like where they're headed. I think that they could easily get to the next round and then some. I know Knoxville certainly hasn't had the year that they wanted, but yeah, I think that in the end it may be a Pella Grinnell showdown and a former battle of former conference foes anyway. But man, this will be interesting. I really hope that we get a lot of competitive games, as I'm sure we will. But this has a lot of intrigue for me.
Yeah, you got to be if you're a Pella or Grinnell fan, you got to be pretty happy with this draw. I mean, if you go based off our rankings, that's number 13 and number 11 respectively in our pool. So it's a really good bracket for both those teams to get to Cedar Rapids at the end of the day. I mean, Pella, they'd probably be one of my favorites right now. They're going to finish second, it looks like, in the little Hawkeye, which is tough to do. They're 3-0 over 4A's Indianola, and they're a good squad. Pella, I saw them against DCG win or lose just 1-0, and that was impressive nonetheless. They've got a complete team. I like Hoekstra on the mound. He's a lefty that throws hard and
Yep.
gets a lot of guys out. But yeah, this bracket, you can throw kind of a question mark on this one too. Like this is anyone up for grabs here, and this is going to be one of those brackets where it's going to come down to who's playing the best ball right now. And you look at who's playing the best ball right now, like you said, it's Grinnell and it's Pella, and those are the top two seeds here. So this is going to be an interesting one, to see who makes some noise. I don't know, this one kind of caught me off guard. I'm not sure what to take out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about with Clear Creek Amana and their and of course them having three guys in the top 10 of total bases, but Isaiah Kettler, you mentioned Hoekstra. I saw him. I believe he was the one that I don't think the ball has landed from the first week of the season in which he jacked one out of Bondurant. So this team has power. This team can do it a lot. I like it. I like their coaching staff, and they've kind of played the waiting game, and I think they're finally at the point where they can really make a big mark here. So yeah, I love where they're at. So that'll be very interesting. Well, so again, that was Substate 7. Now let's head on to the final substate here for Class 3A, and we'll go ahead and bring you that look, and it includes Bondurant Farrar, number 1 in that look. Of course, you also got Lewis Central, Harlan, and Creston. Interesting here for me. I would have pegged Harlan as potentially the number 1 seed, Bondurant Farrar number 2, and then of course going on from there. But interesting. I think this one, I have a big question mark here, and for a lot of reasons. Glenwood right off the bat sticks out to me as the team that I think is the dark horse to win this bracket. There are a lot of great teams here. I'm not trying to upset anybody by any means, but Glenwood swept Harlan earlier in the season. When we've seen some big wins from them this year, I think ultimately they don't have as much body as Harlan and Lewis Central do necessarily. But in the end, Glenwood has proven that they can upset some of the best of them. And that's really intriguing for me there, because you could see a Bondurant Farrar Glenwood matchup, and they haven't faced a ton over the grand scheme of the postseason in the last 10 to 15 years. But then for me, it's interesting because even though I mentioned, like Sadell and the number of guys they have in the top 10 of strikeouts here, Creston on the other end, they have 3 in the top 10, I believe, or top 15, and no other team by my account has that mark. So Creston has an absolute stellar pitching staff that they could end up being safe all the way up to the sub-state final and still have depth in their rotation. I like where they're at probably a little bit more than anybody else because of that depth, because of what they have. I think Harlan's they can be an explosive team, and they can run on the base paths really, really, really well. So they've got a lot going on. And I mentioned Glenwood, Bondurant. I don't know if I've seen a quicker team necessarily than the Blue Jays. And Roberts is obviously a phenomenal leadoff guy. I would argue that Roberts for the Blue Jays is probably one of the fastest leadoff guys in 3A, if not the state. Seeing him was just like seeing the Roadrunner just run around the bases. It was just too quick, and I almost couldn't keep up with the camera. But yeah, I like them. Bondurant has a very big capability of shooting quick, shooting early, and making some big things happen. So this is interesting here.
Yeah, no, I think Creston is a team to talk about. I mean, well, first off, you got two teams in the top 5 in team ERA in this bracket. Bonnarant Farrar actually number 1.75 team ERA, and then Creston is at number 5 with an ERA right around 2.3. And they got a 1-2 duo in Parker Varner and Cale Turner. I mean, Cale Turner's already beaten Harlan. I know. I remember posting him that he beat them when he threw against them. So they've already
Yeah.
got that. And yeah, I mean, they're let's see, they're combined. Those two, Cale Turner's 4-2 on the mound. Parker Varner's 7-1. That's a pretty good 1-2 duo that they're going to be rolling in to this playoff with. And that Lewis Central Glenwood matchup is really intriguing. Glenwood, just like you said, doesn't really have the body of work, but you got a guy in Caden Anderson who you got to work around, who's one of the better pure hitters in the entire state of Iowa.
Yeah.
And then you got Bonner and Farrar at the top. I mean, it's a team that's going to finish right at the top of the Raccoon River. Just beat North Polk last week. This one's really, really deep. There's a lot of good teams here, and then we haven't even talked about Denison. I mean, they're an above 500 team in the Hawkeye 10. That's not easy to do. So really, this one could go sideways pretty quick too. If I'm going first guts, I like Creston. I like Bonnarant Farrar.
Yeah, and in the end here, Denison was one of the teams that went pretty well with being undefeated. You know, they were undefeated for a good stretch there. Didn't quite get all that way there, but yeah. Also don't forget about Dylan Hopker as well, the senior, 55 strikeouts. That's a trio of Creston Panthers that are going to be very, very tough there. Again, that's always fun to look at here. And again, on the offensive side, they have a number of guys that will really make a big push and a big fuss for a lot of teams here. So, as I believe, this is one of the top base running teams in 3A as well. And we see that with a lot of different guys on the mix here. Tyler Riley is a guy that you really have to take a name for. 15 stolen bases on the year as a junior, but getting into some time there, it's really interesting. So that'll be fun. So as we continue to roll along, hey, what are your thoughts and more here? And let us know. What are your thoughts here? And Kate, I assume as we roll along, keep this going for some more 4A look here as I waste some time to get my stuff all set up here for you. But again, I ultimately, as you look back at 3A here, Kate, what are some of the biggest brackets that stand out to you? Oof. I mean, if you had to go ahead and give us what's your most loaded bracket, and then where could you see the biggest surprise coming out
of? Let's see. I think Sub-State 8. After looking back, I think that one's the most loaded. I think you can make a case for 4. I mean, really, all of them are going to be really a ton of fun, and I like Seidel. I just feel like that 1-2 duo in Mean and Hicks, I feel like they could cause some damage in Sub-State 6. I know that they're one of the top seeds, but if Seidel and Marion are going up against each other, I don't know. It'd be tough, but I think Seidel might be my dark horse. I've really enjoyed following them all year, and when it comes to the postseason, you like taking those teams with the nice 1-2 punch and the 1-2 punch that can go out and just shut a good offense down. And I see that in Seidel. It's going to be tough to score runs against that team with those two guys throwing majority of the innings in this postseason.
Yeah, I like you there. I like where you're sitting at. I personally really like Sub-State 8, but if I had to go anywhere, I would definitely go Sub-State 4 as the bracket that I feel. If you come out of there, you're probably going to end up making some big runs in the state tournament, I believe anyway. And then, for me, I like, going through there. I have to agree with you, but I will go ahead and say Sub-State 2. From Algona and ADM, two teams I feel ADM has proven they can go under 500 and take a state tournament berth. And of course, Algona, they have been set here. Ulrich, we mentioned mine, we mentioned Slagle as well. All those guys are going to come through, and they're going to let this team go deep. This Algona team came very shy last year of making the state tournament as well. So I know they're gunning for it, and they're looking to get the chance here. But all right, let's quickly turn and burn as we go ahead and look at our Class 4A Sub-State as we go ahead and get this up. And again, give us your thoughts, comments, more. What do you think? We'll love to hear your thoughts. All right, so Substate 1 here, Cade, in Class 4A. You know what? 4A is kind of a different beast, right? It's a really different beast. Last year, you kind of had a different shakeup, right? You had teams have that first round bye, and you don't necessarily get that here. But what you get is kind of an interesting look here. I know that Waukee kind of seems like they're the team that could end up being that they could run away with it, and easily they have the capability with Billings as well as everybody that can really shut things down. But I want to take a look. Sioux City North, they may have not. They didn't have the season that they certainly thought they could have. But if you get Shunk and you get Billings in the sub-state final, that could be a pitching matchup for the ages. And in the end, Sioux City North, if they keep within striking distance, all they have to do is poke across a couple runs, and that could be what ends up sealing the deal here. Waukee hasn't had too many games like that, so it's going to be one of their best games of the season just to get there or just to make that happen. So, we'll see what happens. But in the end, I'm going to have to give an edge to Waukee in this one because of their pitching and because they've already took down some giants this year in Centennial and others, and so they have the capability of going the distance in my eyes.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I think Sioux City North. You talk about shrunk, but Chamberlain, the sophomore, he's been just as good. In fact, he's thrown almost 7 more innings than shrunk. They got a nice 1-2 duo in those two that could cause some havoc. I mean, Chamberlain through 44 innings is a whip below 1. He's been excellent. So that Urbandale Sioux City North matchup right away. Could be a ton of fun. I mean, and then you look at Indianola; they just took down DCG, and that's not something a lot of people can say they've done, this year. So this is a ton of fun. Obviously I like Waukee just because of what they've done. But looking at what Waukee and like Urbandale have done, they've got some common games. Waukee's won all 3 games, but 2 of them have been won by 1 run. So I don't know. This is one where you probably like Waukee the most, but there's some threats here to the Warriors and Indianola, Urbandale, Sioux City North. All 3 of those teams have good pitching that can match up with Waukee and maybe scrape a few across in a 7-inning game. So this one's fun, and I'd say it's pretty balanced. This is going to be a competitive sub-state.
Yep, it does have the top 2 stolen base earners in this sub-state alone, and Des Moines East Tate Warren, and of course Grant Sorensen out of Waukee. That'll be interesting to see how that battles out there. So again, yeah, that'll be a fun one. I think that this could end up turning a lot of different ways, but we'll see. We'll end up seeing how it works out here. And as I get the next sub-state 2 bracket up here, or maybe I love how Bound likes to work with me and mess with me just a little bit. Here we go. It always does that thing where it shifts on you right at the last second here. But now as we bring it up, Dallas Center Grimes. Not surprised here. The number 1 seed in this, Sioux City East Valley, Council Bluffs, Abraham Lincoln, who we'll see at Talon Young Field in Omaha this very next week. We get to see them. They will play Ankeny here. And first, I'm going to just leave this right off to you right off the bat here, Kate. I think Dallas Center Grimes has been so good. Indianola recently was really the only team since the early part of the season to find a way to defeat Dallas Center Grimes. And I don't necessarily see Sioux City West doing so, although crazier things have happened. But, in the end, I think what you could see is kind of a Prongy Classic remake here between DCG and Sioux City East. And then, again, we'll see what goes from there. But, Council Bluffs Lincoln, they're intriguing to me because they have a lot of good talent on there. Yet I don't think they've been able to materialize that into the wins that they wanted.
Yeah, that's an intriguing matchup. Council Bluffs, Lincoln, and Ankeny right off the rip. But you read my mind talking about the rematch. I mean, that was a 4-3 win for DCG over Sioux City East, and that was 2 games, that was a game where both teams got to kind of see each other's big guns. I mean,
Yep.
Bodie Calling, the sophomore, threw for East. He went 7 innings, struck out 5, and only gave up 2 earned. Obviously, he got the loss, but still, he threw well in that game. And then Sioux City East got a chance to see Keaton Fenn and Tate Perrin, and they were able to put up 3 on Fenn, which is something not a lot of teams have been able to do. So if we do see that rematch, it'll be interesting. If what arms throw, how people adjust, because it can be an advantage, it can be a disadvantage seeing a guy once, twice. So it'll be interesting. I think DCG, I mean, obviously he had an incredible year. They deserved a good draw. And this bracket was obviously, they were the 1 seed here, and it was kind of made around them. But Sioux City East could cause some headaches. And then even the winner of Council Bluffs, Lincoln, and Ankeny, like those 2 teams are no slouches. And both those guys could cause some trouble too.
And what you get here is you have 2 guys in Jack Thieler, Tate Gray are two of the top 2 home run earners in Class 4A, and 2 of the top total base earners in 4A. So I think at this point, if we get to that matchup, Cade, I'm going to say it's between who can limit the All-Star first, right? Who can limit one of those 2 first. And it's been extremely hard to set down Gray. Thieler has been just as strong. Both are phenomenal juniors in that mix. So, I'm with you. I think it's very intriguing. In the end, where does it go from there? I like DCG. I like how they put up too much offense, I think, in the end. But, it could go crazy. But let's move on here to Sub-State 3. Johnston taking that number 1 seed. Not surprising there. I will say that Cedar Falls, they're kind of that. Honestly, they've had a big surge as of late. They're taking on Mason City, who's certainly no slouch, Southeast Polk, and Cedar Rapids, Washington. I'll let you go first here. Cedar Rapids, Washington is intriguing to me. They have some guys there that can, in a 1-game winner all, and you don't get tomorrow. That's not a guaranteed scenario. It's scary. A lot of this is very, very scary. In the end, I find it hard not to lean heavily on Johnston for this one.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this one's obviously Johnston's to lose. They're on their long streak of making it. But you want to play devil's advocate. Cedar Falls just did something last year that I don't think any of us were expecting. They went into Kennedy and they took down a team that not a lot of people thought they were going to win that. I mean, none the numbers might not be sexy for the Tigers, but they found a way to do it, and then they went to the state tournament and they caused some havoc there too. It makes this time so fun because it's 7 innings at a time at this point, and it's not even 7 innings at a time. It's 1 inning, 1 pitch at a time. Like it's that intense and it's that important. In any single game, anyone can bring it and change the path. But no, Cedar Falls, Southeast Polk, if both those teams can get by, I mean, that's an intriguing semifinal to see who gets to play Johnston. Johnston 1-0 against Southeast Polk this year. They actually have a doubleheader against each other coming up here shortly. So it'll be, intriguing to see how both of those teams kind of go about showing each other in that matchup. But no, this one could be fun, and you got to just always keep an eye on Cedar Falls after what they did last year.
And a name to note here out of Cedar Rapids, Washington, Caden Buandana. I don't know if I'm saying that right, that last name here. He's a guy sitting 3rd in 4A in home runs, but also he's on base at a clip of over 500, over 500, or 373, I should say, slugging 525. That's a guy that, honestly, at this point, yes, they're going against Southeast Polk, but Southeast Polk has been stunned before. I don't know if it'll happen here, but in a game where 1 hit can determine the outcome, I think that's ultimately where you got to watch out for that name. It's going to be a big one there. And I'll now go ahead as we move on to Sub-State 4, and I will say, Cade, this is one that I messaged you about here earlier, and I said, wow, we get state tournament right out of the gates here in Dowling and Ames, and ultimately you could see a scenario in which you get Oakey, and which you get either Oakey and Geffrey, Oakey and Baumler. You get Baumler and Geffrey right out of the bats here. I mean, this is very intriguing. I'm not really sure who I necessarily love kind of coming out of Des Moines Roosevelt Fort Dodge, although the Rough Riders do have put up a 20-win season, and of course, looking to take the Metro Conference there, and they're well in the lead to do so. So I already pegging them as a conference winner here. But oh man, I think ultimately I don't know if Marshalltown is really gonna handle what Centennial has. So you could see the Jaguars go 2 games without throwing Okie, put them in there for the sub-state final, and make your way in. And they've been hot. They haven't had that dip at the end of last year like they haven't had the dip this year like they had at the end of last year. So, man, this is very intriguing for me. I think this is the most exclamation mark type of bracket in 4A for me.
There's zero doubt, Andrew. This is the most intriguing sub-state bracket in Class 4A, and you can't help but just have flashbacks to last year and how that went down. I mean, it's how it is. It's what everyone's going to be thinking about. And now Ankeny Centennial, they get a chance to rewrite that, and I think that's incredibly cool. You know, it's like everything's just playing out.
Yep.
Not like we all thought, but it's crazy how it's playing out. And you want to look at like power ranking pitchers, like just individual pitchers in Class 4A. You've got some of the best in this bracket. And I know a lot of people are going to talk about Geffrey and Ames, and rightfully so. I mean, 58 strikeouts through 31 innings, but they got a number 2 in Josh Gray in the senior. He's having an excellent year too. 34 innings, 56 Ks, a 2.6 ERA. It's going to be interesting how the pitching lines up. I mean, you'd think with Dowling and Ames that you're going to see Geffrey and Baumler going,
Yep.
just because of what's going down. But whew, this one is going to be ton to follow. And if I'm looking at what games I'm going to want to go to, that one at Dowling on the 12th of July between those two teams, that one's going to be some fireworks. Then whoever makes it has to get by Roosevelt or Fort Dodge, and then they're going to have to go through the Titan that is Ankeny Centennial. But if you can throw your big gun in that first game, you're hoping you can keep him at a pitch count, where he's good for the sub-state final, and then we could be set up for a really, really fun pitching matchup in that sub-state final.
I will have you note though that of all the teams in there, Des Moines Roosevelt, the team with the fewest strikeouts out of any in that sub-state. So they could play the patient game. We've seen them play the patient game pretty well. So they could be the one that slides through. And again, they're working on another 20-plus win season. They've been over the last couple of years doing a good job of making it to that mark. But let's roll on here as we keep on going. And again, thoughts, comments, more, hit us up. Whenever you catch this, really, let us know. We're always checking it, and we always want to hear from you. But right now, let's move on. Sub-State 5 in Class 4A, and there's a lot of Dubuque in here, but there's also a lot of offense right up at the top. Cedar Rapids Kennedy, North Scott, who we will see here coming on up again next week. And then, of course, Dubuque Hempstead, Dubuque Senior. Coach Soy, I love what Dubuque Senior is doing. I think they're really on the right turnaround. They're heading in the right direction. They just get lost in a lot of competitive play, and they're a tough team. But I will say it. If I said it once, I'll say it again. North Scott, you cannot overlook them. I know Kennedy Dons, they're looming right now as the giant. But they were also the giant last year that was slain prior to the state tournament. So, what we could end up seeing that potentially again, but in the second round, because North Scott, if they get the chance to throw out Kai Smith and what he's doing, he is absolutely phenomenal. I love what they're doing. North Scott lost their all-time hits leader from the year prior, or doubles leader, I should say. And what do? They get Kai Smith to step on up and be an absolute juggernaut. He's a strong at bat for them. I do like that they could play upset, but I like where they're at ultimately. I think they are a true 2 seed in this one. But I mean, good Lord, how many times do we see, look, top 5 riddled with Cedar Rapids Kennedy players, Cougars going through the top 5 in pitching, or ultimately they have too much offense here that I think Waterloo West will struggle with. But good heavens, if they made it through without allowing a run or with scoring 50 runs themselves, I would not be surprised, Cade. This is a juggernaut type of a team, but I would also say do not count out Senior or North Scott in this one.
Yeah, Kennedy's just been historic, and that's going to be the story. And North Scott, they've had success against Muscatine, Hempstead, and Senior, which are all the teams that they're going to have to go through to get to Kennedy. And if you can get that kind of matchup, and you get like a Kai Smith versus Kennedy or a
Yeah.
Carter Harms against Kennedy, it could be, it's just that's the crazy thing. You just get these one game scenarios, and just anything can happen. But Kennedy, they've got that bad taste in their mouth after last year where, I mean, we were probably saying this at the same time last year, Andrew, that like this is Kennedy's, this is the team, this is the juggernaut. So at the end of the day, it comes down to that 7 innings, and it comes down to two guys on the mound going out and grabbing that ball and trying to shut down a good offense to get to Cedar Rapids. So I'm gonna probably say the same thing again. I'm going to say this is Kennedy's bracket, but at the same time, a North Scott team with good pitching and a strikeout guy and Kai Smith, it could it can go any way. I'm never committing to anything anymore, because once this postseason hits, just stuff happens that we would have just never thought, and that's what makes it fun. But no, Kennedy's been great all year. Video game like numbers, and this is going to be a fun bracket to follow.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun. And speaking about fun, I think we're going to get any just as much, I would say, in the fun department here coming up in the next bracket, Substate 6. Linmar with Sarsfield and a lot of underclassmen that are just raking it. And I should say part of the some overclassmen, upperclassmen, sorry about that, upperclassmen that are absolutely rocking it. But, man, this gets intriguing because Atumwa, man, they put up another 20-win season here. Again, another consecutive 20-win season. Tucker Long has been his normal self. I think he's going to be fun. But I'll start you off with this here, Cade. And where do you see this one headed? Because Waukee Northwest is very intriguing to me. They feel like they could be a number 1 seed, but Linmar has been on fire as of late. I just don't know. I don't know how to feel about this just yet.
Yeah, I think Waukee Northwest probably was at one point. Linmar has just rocketed up our polls. Like, they just kind of came out of nowhere, and here they are sitting at number 6, what they are in Class 4A right now. So I mean, honestly, Linmar probably did steal this 1 seed just a matter of a week or so ago. Obviously, that's something we won't ever know, but just based off the trends and what's been going on, Linmar has just been hot. And Waukee Northwest, I mean, they've put together a really good year too, and they're going to be known for their pitching staff. It's a pitching staff that can go out there and shut teams down. And I mean, if you're going to kind of look ahead, Waukee Northwest and Ottumwa or Norwalk could be fun. Chris Peterson he's a guy you can throw out there, and he can shut somebody down. I saw him do it against Waukee, threw really, really well. And they got Berdovich, the sophomore, as a number 2 to kind of pair with him. He's got a whip below 1 as well with Chris Peterson. So if I'm kind of looking ahead, like first thoughts, I do see a little bit of chalk here. I see Waukee Northwest and Linmar, and then that's going to be a fun one. I don't think those two teams have much history. If I pull it up real quick, I don't think they've played this year. No, they have not. So I always like those matchups when two teams don't know really anything about each other. Those are the fun ones where it's, truly 7 innings of anything can happen. But I mean, if I'm looking ahead right now, I'm seeing Waukee Northwest and Linmar playing to get to Cedar Rapids.
And it's very, very intriguing in the end. I think ultimately what you get here is, I like Linmar is they got 4 guys with over 30 total bases here. And, likewise on the other end, you got Tanner Jackson for Waukee Northwest, who's been, I think, on fire. I mean, gosh, 52 total bases for him, 25 RBIs, and he's 10 doubles. Again, one of the top 15 marks in Class 4A for him. He's going to be one I feel is there. And then, they've got a quad of great seniors there from Ruggles, Walton, Johnson, Jackson. I love all those guys who can hit, again, over 30 total bases for them. I do feel like they're a team that's going to be, again, they're intriguing. Like I said, I'm with you. I think it's going to end up being a 2-horse race when it comes to it. I think ultimately Atumwa will put a nice charge into it, but I don't know if they're going to end up taking it all the way. I think it's going to be a tough one for them. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, again, give us your thoughts. Where do we think they're going to lie, and what else happens here? But for right now, Cade, I I gotta have to start you off with this one here too. As we bring you in here, Iowa City High. You and I have seen them several times here, and I look at that, and if you put Schrader up right away, you give him that rest, you put him up there for the sub-state final. I mean, you could essentially have just him and Talon Young run you through the entire, and that's without mentioning Waldschmidt. I mean, there's depth to this pitching staff, and this is the team that has the fewest strikeouts of the bunch here, ultimately, or one of the fewest strikeout totals. Yet they're one of the best pitching staffs out there, and it's proven that you don't have to put up a large amount of strikes or strikeouts just to be effective. They're the best ground ball pitching team, and I've seen that, and it almost made my head spin when they went up against Western Dubuque. So that's something there. And I mean, I also will say that I believe in Bettendorf a lot, but I also believe in Milo Kelly out of Davenport Central. If you haven't had him on your names to know list yet, Kate, he should be. He should have been right away. He is one of the top guys in 4A, and you look across the board, scouts are just have been salivating at the guy, and I don't blame you for him. He is truly an impactful guy who can, with one swing, with one throw, can change the entire landscape of the game. And so I can see, I am not out of the realm. This is one of those that I can easily see Davenport Central running amok here and meeting Iowa City High in that sub-state final. I can see that. Now, Prairie they're just a tough team. They've been tested, proven. They've gone through a gauntlet themselves. So I think Prairie has the better test. But I think that Davenport Central is someone that you cannot overlook.
Yeah, I'll play a little devil's advocate for you. I like Prairie a lot, and it comes down to pitching. I know I sound like a broken record just talking about pitching, but Wegemeister and Vols have been great, both starting a lot of games, both have 40 innings. Woodhouse, he's coming out of the pen in relief a lot. He's been really good, and I mean, City High and Prairie played a doubleheader early in the season. Both games were really close. I know City High won both of those, but it's hard to beat a good team three times, and Prairie's a really good team, and they'd be really hard to beat three times. And they've got the pitching to shut down an offense, and I know City High does too. So it's a little bit of it is chalk, Prairie and City High to play to get to Cedar Rapids, but that'd be a fun matchup. Whether City High could throw Schrader or Young or whoever they want to throw for the sub-state final, but Prairie's going to have an arm ready to match them just because they're really deep with their pitching, and they've got guys who can go and get outs and make a good offense quiet for at night. So Prairie and City High, if it comes down to that in a sub-state final, that'd be one to lose sleep over if you're City High, because that's a really tough matchup to get to state, and no matchup's supposed to be easy to get to state. But that's one of the more intriguing ones that I'm seeing. And again, it's two teams that have played and know a lot about each other, and I'm sure they both saw each other's good arms that game. So it's going to be another one of those matchups where if it comes down to it, it's just adjusting and who's going to make less mistakes. City High is great in the field. Prairie is too. I mean, those are two really evenly matched teams and two 20-plus wins teams. So, winning 20-plus games in 4A is never easy. So that's how I see this going if I'm, going off first look.
Hey, I don't blame you there. Of course, Woodhouse and Vols, as you mentioned, 101 strikeouts combined between the two. I mean, you're not going to have an easy time going against them. Both of them with whips under 130 or under 131, I should say. They've been pretty stellar. It's this could be intriguing. I think ultimately, I love both of these. I love both of them. It's fun, and that's without saying anything about Iowa City West. I think Coach Stumpf is one of the all-time greats in high school baseball coaching, and he reached a big win milestone last season. Added to that this year, so they could play spoiler as well. Like you said, I will not not stamp 100% on anything anymore after what we saw in the postseason last year. So could see it end up happening. I think this is one of the biggest question marks for me. We'll see how it ends up. And again, what are your thoughts? How do you view it? We'll see going from here. But right now, let's go ahead and as my computer gets ready and rolling here. All right, so now we move on to what I believe is kind of a three-horse race here. I'll bring it up as we look at the final bracket here, and that includes Sub-State 8 bracket. Iowa City Liberty, Kid, I think you can go with me on this one and agree. It's not hard to see why they're number one. I will say that one of the more explosive teams in extra base hits, total bases, one of the best offenses that 4A has is Davenport North, and I would love to see Iowa City Liberty already with two pitchers that I'm for sure of have had complete games and close to complete game shutouts at that. Davenport North, they have two guys here that have had over nearly 30 walks in the season already. Not many teams have had that duo. Plus, Kid Bolkema, he's just an absolute extra base hit, home run hitting machine. So that's there. And then, I mean, again, I will never say anything about Pleasant Valley negative because Coach Steckline has proven that he can turn any group into a great group. And you usually see a lot of great talent coming out of Pleasant Valley. So that combination there, I'm not going to say Pleasant Valley doesn't have a shot. I think they have a legitimate shot at making it deep here. But if I had to say anything, I think this is Davenport North's year. They've worked up. They've incrementally got better and better, and I think this is the year where they get out of it. Unfortunately, it might be at the expense of Iowa City Liberty, but then again, I could see Liberty making the third straight trip.
Yeah, really fun bracket here. This one and the one with Dowling, Ames, and Centennial are definitely my two favorites at this point. And really another yin and yang thing. Davenport North, they're going to be known for their offense. I love Brandon B. I mean, a lot of people don't talk about Brandon B. He's so fun to watch, and I think he could be an X factor in a one game scenario. Then you got Pleasant Valley, like you said, you just can't count them out, and you really can't count them out when they're throwing Lincoln Dalton, the sophomore, 42 innings. ERA and WHIP really, really small, both below 1. He's only given up 5 earned runs all year. He's only walked 6 guys, and he struck out 54. I'd say that's a pretty good strikeout to walk ratio. But no, when he's throwing, they're going to have a legit shot to win. You don't know how they're going to line him up, if they're going to throw him against West or if they're going to try and sneak by West and throw him against North or Burlington. A lot of that depends, how I think this bracket goes is will depend on who throws who when. But Liberty's they've got the primary seed here, and they deserved it. They're known for their pitching. They can also hit. They've split some series with some really good teams this year. They've been competitive in a lot of really, really good games, and they're the highest ranked team in our poll for a reason in this bracket. But no, you're right. This is a 3-horse race, I believe, in Liberty, North, and Pleasant Valley. And depending on who throws who when, I could see. I mean, you could make a case for all three of the top 3 seeds to make it to Cedar Rapids, and I wouldn't have an argument against you because I can totally see any of those guys making it.
Yeah, again, man, so many good individual talents, right? Gosh, this is really fun here. And again, as we look here, as we continue on, and I will say that don't forget to like, subscribe, spread the word on a lot of different things as well. But again, as I kind of pull things up here, and I will say that. One thing I will say for certain is you look at what's going on here. I will say no other team has 2 or more guys like Davenport North to not only have 60 or more total bases, but 29 or more walks. As I mentioned, 29 walks for Pauly, 35 for Bolkema, and both of those guys have 64 or more total bases here. I think they put up a very significant risk when it comes to turning an inning really crooked, right? Getting a 7-run inning or so out. I think that's easily plausible for this Davenport North squad. And again, as you mentioned, from Waterbury to Olem and others for Iowa City Liberty. I mean, last couple of years we've seen their offense really thrive late. It's their pitching staff that I believe gets Iowa City Liberty as far as they want to go. And I think every one of them should, go to each other and be like Jock Peterson and say, hey, these guys are going to get us and win us the championship, because I have a lot of faith in the Iowa City Liberty pitching. I really do. And I like where they're at. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, what are your thoughts? Check us out and hit us up right here on social media and more. We've got a lot coming down the pipeline, including what we think the postseason will play out to be. And, of course, big time players in every class, across every grade, and more. We got that coming down the line as well. So don't go anywhere with that. But, Cade, this has been fun. I always like to do this with you. This gets really interesting, and hopefully everyone else has enjoyed this too, because this is as fun as it gets.
Yeah, we had a ton of people tuning in, so we appreciate everyone for kind of tuning in and listening to us talk, whether you agree or disagree. I mean, that's the thing with us doing this. I mean, we do it for entertainment purposes, but at the end of the day, each time we talk about a game, we're making someone happy and we're making someone mad. So no, this is just it's a ton of fun doing this, Andrew. I can't wait. I think we're gonna make some picks and put those on Rockfin. So if you really want to be upset and look at what Andrew and I got to say and how we think this is really going to go down, you can tune in there when we post those. But now we appreciate the support for iBaseball. I mean, it's been great. You guys have been great following our stuff. And hey, don't go anywhere now. I mean, this is the fun part. So yeah, stay tuned with us.
All right. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. And until we see each other next time, stay safe on the base paths. Thanks again, guys.